In episode number 354 of the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, we cover Batman's induction into the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It's about fucking time.
We also have the return of DC's Dollar Comics. Which ones will be available in the first run?
Our comic book highlight this week is going to be Batman number 73, which hits me hard in the dad heart.
All of this and so much more on today's show.
Hello and welcome to the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week, ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I am Pokemaniac Daniel this week.
You are a Pokemaniac in real life, so...
And a Bulba Maniac, if anything.
Yes.
That's a Twitter account right there. Gotta make that.
Bulba Maniac, jump on it. And I am your almighty sleepy Emperor Kelli.
Yeah, we are recording this late at night to us. After you've worked since 5, you've been up since 5 in the morning.
I've been up since 5. Yeah, I've worked since 7:30, so.
And then it is, of course, the new comic book day shipment. So it was a huge one this week. Lots of work, but we are here to deliver to you the Reasons I'm Broke podcast episode for the week, which in case it is your first show, the way we break it down is we go through some news first. We head into the Patreon shoutouts, which are the thank yous to everyone who makes the show possible. We go into our comic book highlight for the week, and then we end it with the Brocat block, which is where Papa Kelly and I have been.
But starting off with some news that's going to hit you straight in the 90s. They were big in the 90s, right? Is that like the height?
I think so. Yeah, 90s were about it.
They're making a comeback like everything else from the 90s. Toys R Us's parent company, True Kids, is planning on opening 6 stores in the United States by the end of the year, according to Bloomberg.
So all of you people who were saying, oh, how sad. Oh, no, my childhood.
Put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, better buy some fucking shit now.
You better drive to wherever those 6 stores are and buy things.
Better fucking be there. Don't fucking bitch about the stores being gone and then not support it when it fucking returns.
Yeah.
The company plans on using 10,000 square feet for each of the locations as a mix of shelves and play areas. So it sounds a little bit different than how they had it before.
So here's what my heart went to and what I want it to happen with this. Do you remember DZ Discovery Zone?
Vaguely,
Did you ever? Oh, that was like my favorite place, right? I loved it. It's like a giant indoor play place. The one near me had fucking laser tag with Godzilla from the 90s. That was the theme of it, right? And you could jump in all these tubes and all this really cool stuff. So you paid an admission fee to get in there, and then you could just play forever, essentially. So that's what I want to see come back. Like, give me a place that I can take my kid and $10, fine. Run around, have fun. Let me go shop for some toys.
That's a pretty good idea. Or if they mean by play area, having a lot of toys out that they also sell. So kind of having like that, store copy of certain Lego or toys or whatever, or even have whole displays of a Lego corner of the store because they're going to sell the hell out of those.
Of course.
Maybe having it be more interactive, almost as if trying or getting the toys in the kids' hands to then go, okay, so they are clearly having fun with that. Let's go ahead and buy that one. It.
Right. That's smart, too, because there's so many things that, like, Leo will see in the store for a second, and then I know when he gets home, he's not going to play with it anymore. So to see him actually interact with it and play with it some more, and then they go, I really want this, and then you got to buy it.
I don't know if they're going to bring back the video game portion of it. I wouldn't if I were them. It seems like GameStop definitely has that corner marketed. And even then, sales are moving a little bit more towards the streaming side of gaming. So if I were them, focus on physical toys and, of course, the learning toys that they had like Leapfrog before.
I feel, going back to those video games, I felt like that was never a big market for them anyway. Yeah, that's where I bought my Game Boy. Sure, I remember that. I remember buying Pokemon from there, right? But at the end of the day, it was always slow in the gaming section. And everybody was walking through the aisles looking at all those hard toys. So I want the chainsaw. Do you remember that chainsaw?
Was it a toy chainsaw?
Yeah. No. And then you revved it up and it was like, it was terrifying.
Pretend to kill your friends.
They had a whole section of just tools. Think Leo needs a chainsaw.
Yeah, we'll have to discuss that. I'm not so sure about that one. We talked about new beginnings with Toys R Us, and now we have endings with the X-Men universe from Fox. And Dark Phoenix director Simon Kinberg has stated that the film's reception from critics should all be put on him.
We do have a quote from him, which he told to KCRW's The Business Podcast, which reads, quote, "I'm here. I'm saying when a movie doesn't work, put it on me. I'm the writer/director. The movie didn't connect with audiences. That's on me. I actually really liked the movie, and I had an amazing time making the movie." End quote.
I'm guessing this is from the reshoots that Fox unfortunately had to do because Captain Marvel happened to beat them to the punch. And so that the reworking of the third act had to go through. I don't know if the fan base is directly blaming 20th Century Fox, and that's why he's saying, no, this is a passion project for me mainly. And a lot of the decisions that were in that third final act were from me primarily. So him saying that he is the director and writer, at least one of the writers, I think it's kind of neat that he still stands behind what he created with Dark Phoenix. And we're not doing a full review of the movie. If you guys really want us to do some kind of, maybe I'll do a stream or something later on, but we saw it last about a week and a half ago, and both of us thought it was really solid. I thought that 20th Century Fox created the strongest, I think, comic book Marvel character on screen yet. It's stronger than Phoenix from X-Men 3, and it's stronger than Thanos. She can Thanos characters without any fucking gauntlet, and she doesn't need time travel because she's rehealing. And it's amazing what they did with Phoenix, and Sophie Turner did an incredible job.
She did.
She and also Michael Fassbender were the two strongest performances in this movie. There's a lot of interesting things happening with twisting Xavier's sort of gold with the X-Men and how he almost uses them to rectify what he's doing or self-confirm instead of thinking about the whole team. There's a lot of elements at play that are, of course, more than your standard MCU movie where there's a lot to discover and really think about. But on top of that, you have great performances, great special effects. And I know that initially that third act was supposed to take place in space, and I could see how they can easily have turned that into like a spaceship battle, or they travel into space to take care of it. And I'm sure the visuals would have been stunning, better in space than in that subway cart or the regular train. But it was still a very solid third act with the action and everything leading up to it. The use of camera and lighting were really interesting. So there was, it's absolutely worth watching, and it's not a super ending to that X-Men First Class universe. They obviously had more planned after Dark Phoenix, but they ended strong if this is in fact the very last we'll see, and it sounds like it is, of that First Class universe.
I definitely agree with all of that. It was a very well put together movie. I would have loved to see, what would have happened if they hadn't changed the third act, because there were still a few things where I was like, the villain was kind of predictable, right? That's your standard villain. And I still don't think that Cyclops, that she would ever go for Cyclops.
That's what you kept saying. You're like, she'd stand up with Michael Fassbender.
Yeah, she would. She should have.
There was a little bit of sexual tension there.
There was so much sexual tension there.
But they were trying to make it so that he still had feelings for Raven.
Right.
So that's why they were trying to work that angle. But I'm like, maybe they will.
I get that he's like way older than she is, but I would not have faulted her. Like, yeah, she's supposed to love Cyclops, right? But if she showed up and they're just like, you want to be bad together? And they're like, bound chicken wow. Good for her.
Do you think the appeal for Magneto would have gone down some if they listened to Michael Fassbender and made his hair gray like he wanted?
No. He probably still would have been like
a fine wine. I'm curious what he looks like if he doesn't color his hair at that age. So I think it would have worked out kind of neat. I think he's getting close to his late 40s at this point.
He looks great for his late 40s.
You've got it when you're a Hollywood star. That's your gig.
True.
That is your job.
Anyway, go see Dark Phoenix.
While you still can, of course. And also, enjoy the Venomverse as you still can. I don't know how much Morbius and the Black Cat movie are going to tie into that universe. But unfortunately, at a Hollywood Q&A press event for Spider-Man Far From Home, which is that Sony-Disney split-up movie mainly handled by Marvel Studios, President Lord Feige of course, Marvel Studios, said that Spider-Man and Venom are likely to cross over in film at some point.
We have a quote from him as well, which says, quote, "I think probably. It's up to Sony. Sony has both those characters and has Venom in their world. I don't know what their plans are for another Venom or if they're going to do that. But it seems likely at some point," end quote.
Now, I know this is in no way confirming for sure that those universes, that even Venom takes place in the Disneyverse, but that's still, because of how bad those movies are on the Disney side, it gets me nervous where I'm like, let's not even talk about it.
Don't even joke about it. No, it's fine. It's fine. I don't know, but if it's handled by Sony, right?
Well, here's the thing. The fact that Sony already has plans for Venom 2, that's moving forward. It made so much money, there's no reason not to. In spite of critical reception, they're moving forward, and that's how it should be. They're making the right moves.
Right.
On top of that, Kevin doesn't even acknowledge that there's a sequel. He's like, I think they're doing one. I don't know. I'm sure he knows, and he doesn't want to give a pub just in case. But my take is Sony doesn't have to split the earnings with Disney.
Right.
For Venom. That's all theirs. Mm-hmm. They made more money off of Venom than they did off of Spider-Man Homecoming. So stick with that plan. If it means not needing to mix and mingle with the Marvel Studios side, great. Keep making Venom 2, make Venom 3, make a Carnage, whatever you own and you have been doing, like Morbius. Keep all the money. Keep all the rights. There is zero reason for you to not move forward. Do another Spider-Verse. Sony killed it last year as well with Spider-Man Spider-Verse. So you can do many sequels with that. And they are doing spin-offs as well. So keep on going. Do not mix with Lord Feige or the MCU. Stay far away from all of that shit. Because as soon as you dip your toe in there, you're damn sure Disney's going to go in and say, well, hold on a second now. I don't want Venom showing this, doing this. If they're going to interact with our characters and they can't do this, save yourselves the fucking headache and make the money.
Speaking of Spider-Man, I saw a headline and I didn't even click on it because it was so ridiculous. But somebody posted it on my Facebook, or posted it on Facebook, right? And that's how it showed up. And it said, Disney plans to make 7 more movies with Tom Holland. Like, they're already in the works, Spider-Man movies. And I was like, just because he has a contract for that doesn't mean they're going to be made.
Exactly.
I just laughed. I was like, okay, whomever thought this was real.
Robert Pattinson thing. He signed on for 3. It's like, well, wait to see if the first one's good. He signed on for 3. Doesn't mean there's going to be 3.
I saw something that he backed out because of scheduling conflicts.
So that ended up being clickbait.
Oh, okay.
So the article, and they ended up clearing it up, and they said the original report was he backs out of a movie because of scheduling conflicts. And someone, I think it was comicbook.com, ran with it and said he backs out of Batman. And that's when all the clickbait happened. They don't care. They're getting ad revenue.
Of course.
And then when it cleared up, like, no, a movie that he was working on, which is every actor's working on many movies, he had to step out of due to scheduling conflicts. That's why news sites like Newsarama, Bleeding Cool, that's where we pull a lot of our stories from, didn't report on this. You have to ignore comicbook.com, ignore Cosmic News, ignore Latino Review, ignore those. Go with the 2 that I've so far trusted, Bleeding Cool and Newsarama. They don't report on the nonsense. They don't report on clickbait.
They wait for actual sources to give actual news.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good to know. Now we know. I'm glad I cleared that up for everyone.
I know DC is saying that it is the year of Batman because, of course, 80 years of Batman, Detective Comics 1000, all kinds of amazingness. Batman the Animated Series on Blu-ray. Well, it all continues. Every year is the year of Batman, but this one's like extra
every day is the year of
special.
Batman.
Damn right. Well, now Hollywood they're getting a very, very important, probably more important than a lot of the inductees in there. Batman himself will be on the Hollywood Walk of Fame next year.
Amazing. It's about time. What took him so long?
Well done, Kevin Conroy, because that's what I think of when I see Batman. So
I hope he accepts the award.
Amazing. Paul Dini better be there.
Yeah.
Bruce Timm.
All of them. They all deserve it. Jim Lee, he's got to be there. Dustin Nguyen, can we invite Dustin Nguyen?
I like how we're inviting people now.
Yes, we're inviting people to this party.
Listen, DC, we will handle this if you want.
Yeah.
And we've already got a great guest list planned.
Yeah, we need
also the brochettes.
a great buffet afterwards.
Limousine for each brochette?
For each one.
Well, I don't care how backed up we're going to get this fucking Hollywood Boulevard or whatever.
So numerous fictional characters have received stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The first comic character, this is amazing, was Snoopy from Peanuts. Good for Snoopy.
Back in 2015. Pretty awesome. And you have good company, Snoopy. Mm-hmm. Very good company. I hope his star is black, like black and yellow.
That would be so cool. It's not going to happen. Aren't they all the same?
I hope it does, just so that other inductees can go, wait a minute, I want to change my color.
Oh my God. There's some silly inductees, I'm sure.
Well, speaking of Batman and true Batman of the animated series, classic villain that came straight out of the movie, Batman Mask of the Phantasm herself is going to make her in-continuity comic book debut in Tom King's Batman Catwoman miniseries with art from Clayman. I know this broke weeks ago. We didn't record last week. We hope you enjoyed the Greg Capullo episode, but we had to talk about this. Being huge The Animated Series fans, this is fucking fantastic.
You lost your mind when you were like, Kelly, look at this. You were so excited.
And I know she has shown up. She has a comic first appearance. It is on the sort of adaptation of the movie. There is a sequel where you see where her and the Joker went. And there was the Batman Animated Series... Batman Beyond comic book, where she also showed up in the far future, so you can kind of see where Andrea Belmont has been, and they leave it where Bruce and her kind of reconnect after all those years, which was really nice. But now we're getting it in continuity, so let's see how she plays with these characters, and with this relationship between Bruce and Selina, it was incredibly smart of Tom to choose the Phantasm, because they know Bat fans are going to be talking about this.
Of course. Do you think he's going to end up with the Phantasm, or you think he's going to stick with Catwoman?
I'll tell you what I want, because this is what I tweeted to Tom. Everything from Batman 50 will be forgiven with the non-wedding if out of this Batman Catwoman miniseries, we now get Batman's True Love, a Batman Phantasm miniseries where we just explore their wedding.
No.
We get a wedding between the Phantasm and Andrea Belmont. You know that's the true couple. You've admitted this to me before. You said the one person that would top Selina is the one person that Bruce almost left being Batman for.
Yeah, and now he's
that's Andrea
almost
Belmont.
left being Batman for Selina, so...
Did he though? No, that was the whole thing. It worked because they can both patrol Gotham together. He doesn't have to stop being Batman, but he almost gives it all up, including Gotham, for the Phantasm.
I need you to do something very important for me. Can you do this?
Maybe. What is it?
I need you to leave this house because we can't have this kind of
You agreed with
negativity.
this,
We can't
though.
have. I don't remember this. Don't remember Batman and Catwoman forever. We are a house divided.
This issue of the Phantasm making her debut will release on January 2020. Her design is loosely based on the Reaper, which is already a DC Comics character from years ago. And an iteration of the Reaper showed up recently in Detective Comics, but that was by Peter J. Tomasi, who's not working on this Batman at all. So I think that was sort of a coincidence that those two characters are showing up at around the same time. But it's neat to know that... I want to know if the backstory is the same. If he's going to keep it from the animated series and just translate into comics, where they did have a relationship in the past. He almost stopped being Batman, which would make sense too, because that would have been his first betrayal, where she had to lie to him to leave because of her father, right, in the movie. And in this case, Catwoman was manipulated by her friend and Bane in the end to leave Bruce at the altar. So there's a lot of mirroring here between these two relationships.
There is, and I think that it will be interesting when they find out that Catwoman's the better woman for him, because Andrea was okay with him giving everything up and pretty much abandoning who he is, and Catwoman left even though it broke her heart because she knew that it would be better for him in Gotham.
He did not take the step of this is who I am until Andrea left. Remember, that's when he said, okay, he puts on the cowl and Alfred says, my God, and sees him.
Yeah, okay, but that's how it was in the animated series.
Correct.
We don't know if that's how it's going to be in the comics.
No, but we're going off of, if they keep it true to the animated series, which I think he should. I think a lot of fans would be a little bit upset if he toyed around too much with the idea. But we'll find out in early 2020. It's already looking like it's going to be an amazing 2020 for comics.
We should have a pool going if he's going to end up with Catwoman or... Andrea.
I know he's going to fucking end up with Catwoman.
Yes, he is.
But he should. It's like, when am I going to get my fucking time?
Is so full. You don't even care about love stories.
Well, look, here's the thing. True Batman, this is where I already win anyway. And I hate to do this to you, but you know, since you're bragging, the animated series Batman is true Batman. True or false? You know that's true. And in that, he never ends up or gets close to ending up with Selina Kyle. He gets closer to Phantasm and even to Talia more than he does to Catwoman.
I need you to get out of my house.
See, this is why. This is the house divided.
Listen.
I had to bring down the animated series.
Have you heard the phrase, happy wife, happy life?
I have heard that. And I've also heard husbands go, it's bullshit. Like as I'm ringing them up, I'm not happy. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't know why I'm a psychologist to a lot of customers, but, or therapist, is it? So I'm like, whatever. It's as my boss has described it. We're the bartenders of the nerd world. Yeah,
pretty much. People like to, I mean, I hear people's problems all the time too. And I'm like, have a cup of coffee. You'll feel better.
Yeah, I've learned the art of nodding and neutral answers like, yeah, you know, man, that's crazy.
Yeah, that shouldn't have happened. Yeah, I do that one a lot.
Well, continuing on the comic book side of things, this makes me really happy as a retailer because I do profit a lot from Marvel's True Believers. Those are the $1 reprints of older comic books. They're not the same as the facsimiles, which are 100% reprints aside from the price of older issues. These are ones that are there to advertise a trade paperback in the back of the book. They'll also have more modern ads in them, and it'll have the big banner of True Believers. Well, DC's Dollar Comics format is returning to shops for the first time after 36 years.
Starting on September 4th, DC will be reprinting special issues in its publishing history at the $1 price point, similar to Image Comics' Image First and, like you said, Marvel's True Believers line.
These are going to start with Detective Comics number 854, which is the first appearance of Alice Elizabeth Kane, which is going to release on September 4th. Batman number 608, which is Hush Part 1, famous cover by Jim Lee, that comes out on September 11th. Harley Quinn number 1 from the New 52 iteration comes out on September 18th. And also Crisis on Infinite Earths number 1 releases on September 25th.
Like we said, these are coming back. So originally, DC Dollar Comics were 64-page anthologies for $1. But this was when the cover prices were 35 cents. They ran from 1977 to 1983.
And this isn't the first time in 36 years that they've done these $1 books. They did have the DC Essentials line, which ended about 2 to 3 years ago. But those were ones in which you had things like the Black Mirror Part 1, 100 Bullets, the Rebirth Flash and Cyborg number 1, which didn't stay in print too long. And I was kind of disappointed by it because we sold them really well. So I'm hoping that these DC Dollar formats, and they're bringing back the old logo and everything.
That's awesome.
So it looks really retro. They all have that unified look. I hope they keep those in print longer. And for, if anything, for the fact of, oh, did you like part 1? Well, this is the trade that it goes with. Here's the rest of the 5 or 6 issues. And that's how we end up converting a lot of those dollar books into those trades. And for families, honestly, it's like, hey, you can pick out 5 of these, and their kids go and pick out 5, and those are their books for that trip. And I don't care. If they're buying those every trip, that's fine. You got to have comics from every price point. You can't just have the $4 ones or the expensive back issues. You got to have something cheaper for the parents to go, here, you can read that. It's only $1. If you ruin them, not a big deal. And kids are happy. They're getting 5 comics.
I think it's a brilliant idea for all the reasons you said. It's going to pull more people into other books, right? Into those trades. It's an easy way to get someone on board. Like, they're not really taking a risk, right? What's $1?
But aside from additions, there are going to be some changes on the DC line of books as a whole.
So starting in January 2020, they will be reconstructing their age imprints after the elimination of DC Vertigo, DC Ink, and DC Zoom. Seems
a little bit soon, because I know DC, at least DC Ink, has been doing well. Those are the original graphic novels that teens and adults are buying. I've got to show you those, because I think you might see 1 or 2 that you're like, holy shit, that looks really interesting.
Are there love stories?
A lot of them are, yeah. I'll show you them. There's the Mara one.
Yeah.
There's also a Raven one, which takes place in high school, I believe. And
Who's
obviously
she in
there's
love
going to be
with?
some, I don't know, I didn't read it. It comes out tomorrow at the
Oh.
time we're recording. I'll show you them next time you stop by the shop. We have a quote here from co-publisher Dan DiDio, who said, quote, "That kind of material is now mainstream across all genres, so we thought it was the right time to bring greater clarity to the DC brand and reinforce our commitment to storytelling for all of our fans in every age group. This new system will replace the age ratings we currently use on our material," end quote.
So the titles they're changing them to, first we have DC Kids. This is aimed at readers 8 to 12 and would include the DC Zoom titles as well as some cartoon-based titles such as the long-running Looney Tunes.
DC Comics will be aged 13 and up and largely continue the core DC superhero lines, but also the DC Zoom titles like Raven or Mara and Super Sons.
And then finally, we have DC Black Label, which will continue as an age label as opposed to an imprint, which it has been previously, and will contain more mature books for readers 17 and older.
As we've said in the past, the DC Black Label line, readers are buying it just because it's a black label. As much controversy as there was with the Batawang in Batman Damned #1.
Batawang, stop.
People are now believers in the Black Label comic books. They are jumping onto that Superman Year One. Last Night on Earth, as we talked about 2 weeks ago, topped the charts in sales. It did incredible. And now they're making that the new, essentially, DC Vertigo that we had in the past. So all of you already know at this point, because you listened to the show, that those planned books that were going to be Vertigo line titles are now going to be, some of them are going to be in the Black Label comics. So if you really cared about those titles, once again,
Vote with your dollar.
They will be on the Black Label line of comics.
I don't see this as a bad move. I know that you're saying, well, they just introduced, Zoom and Ink and all this other stuff, and they're doing well. For me as a consumer, right? Because I didn't know that there was a difference. There were those different things.
Right.
To see something that just says DC Kids, okay, perfect. I know that that's appropriate for my child. DC Zoom, I don't know what that is.
That's probably the most important change, aside from the fact that Black Label is a sellable label on its own. But to everyone else, to the casual readers, they don't care. It's only the weekly readers that are like, this is bullshit. And it's like, it doesn't matter. You're still going to buy the comics you want to buy. So it's a non-issue, really. It's, if anything, it's more positive to the people that don't have that weekly pull list, the ones that can say, oh, DC Kids, all right, I can get that one.
Right.
If it's large enough on the cover for the readers to see, then great, it'll work.
Well, even if in the shop, right, there's a sectioned off area where it's like, check out these new titles from DC Kids, and you have them right there. It makes it more user-friendly for the casual reader, as opposed to someone who's going to know what DC, I don't know what DC Ink is. Like, why would that be for teens? That just makes no sense to me.
That's one thing, even me, as someone who looks at the shelves every day, when I go through, I'm like, which one was Ink and which one was Zoom? And I had to look at the book. Okay, the teen one is Ink. So it doesn't say one way or the other. I know Zoom is like the more, I don't know, cartoony type of
more
label,
fun
but
word, yeah.
It's still not as clear as DC Kids.
Yes, exactly.
Straightforward and done.
Good. I think it's a smart move.
And speaking of the Black Label line, there's a book for you coming out.
There's a book for me? Is it a love story?
Probably. Yes. A twisted one.
Harley Quinn's origin will finally be retold from artist Stefan Sajak through Harley #1 as part of DC's Black Label line.
Straight from DC's description of the book, which is now in your previews catalog for the month, quote, Harleen is a story of a flawed person who meant well, a doctor who fell in love with her patient. It is a story of her road to hell, paved with good intentions and a smile that cost her her soul. More than anything, it is a tale about good people falling in love, falling from grace, and falling apart, end quote.
This will be 3 issues total, releasing on September 25th. I can't wait.
You can pre-order it now at your comic book shop. I had 3 or 4 pre-orders already before this previews catalog came out. So once again, a result of the Black Label line selling the books for you. And this was one that Sajak had been, if you follow him at all on Instagram or as far back as Tumblr, he's had an older account. He put up this same cover that you see of Harleen. He did one for Poison Ivy, so I think that's going to be the next one, based on how well Harleen sells. But this cover has existed for years, and he's even put up like these mock-up pages of this book. And I know Seija can fall behind on certain works, so this is probably a title that's near done for them to go ahead and start publishing it. I know Black Label has more or less come out every other month with their books. So once again, this works for Steppen, who can take his time in finishing up this work. This is going to run side to side with that Harley Quinn Joker Black Label book that we talked about last time, but they aren't going to conflict. They're not in the same continuity. They're just artists and writers telling their story, which readers talk about all the time, right? Just let them tell their story where it's happening in the Black Label line without risking what happens in the DC Comics universe.
I think that this is brilliant. I'm all about it. There's so much more that you can dive into with Harley. And I know we've done that a little more over the years, right? But mostly what we've seen of Harley at this point is after the Joker. How does she recover after the Joker? And to really get an in-depth story of what's going on in her head as she, exactly like it says, fall from grace. That's what the world needs. And we didn't even know we needed that until this moment.
There's going to be 3 issues total, which once again fits with the Black Label line, comes out on September 25th.
But because we can't get enough of Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy #1 will kick off as a miniseries on September 4th, as written by Jody Hauser from Supergirl and art by Adriana Mello from Birds of Prey.
Another Harley Quinn book? Yes.
Yeah.
I just got done talking about my fucking pre-orders.
You want to pre-order it too?
Keep coming. More Harley.
More Harley.
More dark issues. Everything. Just give me all that.
They should have just renamed it like DC Harley Comics.
Whatever sells. I don't give a shit. Solicitation to Harley Quinn Poison Ivy #1 reads, they'll have to evade villains and heroes alike while they explore their relationship and unpack their time and experiences at Sanctuary. Set after the events of Heroes in Crisis and smack in the middle of Year of the Villain, it's a journey across the DC universe that will change their friendship forever if they live that long, end quote.
Is this one a love story?
It is also a love story, a gay love story, very 2019.
Yes, very. Hashtag
but it's actually
2019.
90s because Bruce Timm like to hook them up quite a bit.
Bruce Timm just liked to draw women in underwear, and so we all just followed that line of thought.
Are we going to read this one as well?
Of course we are. It's got Harley in it. I think for the rest of my life, I will always read at least the first of Harley something.
And we'll collect it, if anything.
Yeah, because...
As we have been.
Harley always sells. Harley will always sell.
Something else coming to comic book shops is the latest Funko Pop exclusive to comic book shops, and it's been revealed to be Batman from the Batman Damned comic series based on Lee Bermejo's costume design.
They have officially run out of everything to make.
I feel like you say that every month.
I do, because they keep surprising me.
More Batman pops, I'll take it. My one issue with it, and I know why they did it, because it's marketable to say it's Batman Damned, but Lee Bermejo is the label they should have put on it, because it's his Batman design from before even Batman Damned, like Batman Noel. So I get it though. It's understandable, and you can tie it into Batman Damn sales by saying, what design is this from? Oh, here's the comic. Here's #1 for fucking $70 or whatever the hell.
Oof.
But 2 and 3 cover price, or whatever your shop ends up pricing it at. I like his design, but not enough to start collecting merch from it. Even when I read the book, I'm like, yeah, he looks cool. Like, it's all right. Nothing crazy. I think it worked for Batman Noel best, but he kind of stuck with it for the rest of his comic books and issues.
I feel like Funko Pop is just going crazy. I mean, first Bulbasaur, what next?
And people have already made the obvious joke of, do you see his penis in the Funko Pop?
What would you do if it was just a giant penis?
Great.
You would sell it.
People were saying they should pixelate like plastic on there.
They're not going to do that.
No.
Please, calm down. People will make their own and try to sell them on Etsy and be like, look what it is.
It's the true one, uncensored.
Ugh.
But that does round out our news for comics and movies for this week. Let's head into our Patreon shoutouts before we go into our comic book review.
This week, we have 6 shout-outs. The first one goes out to Nick F., whose Twitter handle is at Jersey Whisperer, and also at Nick's Nerd News 1.
He got to take the Warner Brothers studio tour, so he got to sit there and hold the trident straight from the movie Aquaman. He got to see all the costumes from the DCEU, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. He put up a compilation of pictures, and I was so, like, it's one of those things that you have to do once before you die, and he got to do it. He even told me he got to see all the Batmobiles.
Wow, I'm so jealous. That's on my bucket list.
It's an amazing, I'm guessing, opportunity if you're at all a DC fan, and we've got to take that tour.
We have to go.
At some point, we've got to go.
Let's just drop Leo off tomorrow and fly out there.
Next shout out this week goes out to Julian on Twitter at Kage023. I learned that one from Purple Swordfish. And at Lazy Gaming Guys.
Julian edited and uploaded their E3 coverage episode early to their Patreon,
which I really appreciate, especially because this episode ended up being over 2 hours long.
Oof.
2 hours and 41 minutes, I believe. When they put that up on their YouTube channel, it's a little bit different for me because being a dad, I can't have it playing in the background or sitting there watching it for 2.5 hours. But what they did is they put up the audio version on their Patreon, which they then converted into an RSS feed, very similar to what we do. And now I could consume it on the go or at work after hours. And it's very easy now for me to enjoy even more Lazy Gaming Guys content through their Patreon. And I'm glad that their Breakfast with Lazy Gaming Guys has returned. So if you're at all into gaming or video game talk, make sure to follow them on Twitter at Lazy Gaming Guys.
Our next shout out goes out to Antonio A.
Thank you so much, Antonio. We really appreciate your Patreon support every single month.
Next up, we have Christian, whose Instagram is at @A_man_defeated.
Christian put up some Rainbow Six Siege clips, so some highlights of his gameplay, his online game, some people doing foolish things while he is winning games and really helping out his team. So make sure to check out his Instagram.
Rainbow Six is Tom Clancy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's more like a team-based strategy shooter. So it's not quite like Call of Duty where you can just
all run around and laugh and call robots and sing jungle songs.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Rainbow Six has more like you have to really communicate as a team and not just talk nonsense.
Next up, we have Eric, whose Twitter handle is at @EAntonOfficial.
Eric tweeted out, quote, "Decided that when I finally launch a podcast, it will be all things horror themed. Horror movies, TV shows, comics, events, conventions, etc. Can start with coverage of Halloween Horror Nights and Walker Stalker Con this year." End quote.
I already don't listen to podcasts, but I will also not listen to one about horror things. Because I can't even think about horror things without crying. I get so scared.
Eric has been talking for several years about starting some kind of radio show or even doing radio. And I'm excited that it sounds like he's getting a little bit closer to putting out a show and being heard on the air. So I will absolutely subscribe to it once he has it up and coming. Halloween Horror Nights is something local to us here. It is where Universal Studios does, I think, about a month-long event of reskinning the park after a certain hour. And they have live interactive walk-in haunted areas where the staff will come out and scare you, and they'll have like Chucky's Playhouse where it's like a comedy show. And
they've done American Horror Stories before. They did Stranger Things. They do Saw almost every year.
Yeah, it's a very popular event for the locals especially. They love Halloween Horror Nights, and I definitely look forward to hearing Eric cover all of that.
You enjoy. Kelly can't do. I read some dumb story about guys escaping Alcatraz, and it wasn't even scary, and I was scared. I can't. I don't know how you people do scary things. Can't do it.
Final shout out this week is an all-new Patreon backer. Thank you so much for joining the Brocat Core Patreon family. And a huge thanks goes to Renee, whose Twitter handle is at Yugi's Pokemon.
Renee tweeted, "Still going for Ekans as my second shiny in Ultra Moon, please. At the time, there were 897 resets for Ekans.
Yeah, he will go straight into shiny hunting in Pokemon.
Oof.
And that's where I had tuned into his stream, and where he had said, I'm listening to Reasons I'm Broke as I go shiny hunting. And sure enough, he's streaming his shiny hunts, but listening to the show. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of meta, right? Like the podcast in a stream, and I'm watching the stream.
Right.
So it was really neat to watch him, and bless his heart for starting from the very beginning. I'm like, man, but it sounds like he's really catching up on these. And he said he finally joined Patreon, and I really appreciate it. Mm-hmm. He puts up some great content, especially if you're a Pokemon fan at all. Make sure to follow his Twitter account at Yugi's Pokemon. He will share, retweet, and post all kinds of great Pokemon stuff.
Is he all caught up now?
I'm not sure. Let us know, Renee.
Yeah.
Tweet to at Kelli.
I also want to know if I'm still as hilarious all those episodes ago.
There was one answer to that.
Yes.
That's right.
That's the only answer. That was a great husband answer. Good job.
I got to make up for this Catwoman thing that we're always going to fight about.
Yeah, forever.
So thanks once again to Nick, Julian, Antonio, Christian, Eric, and Renee for your Patreon support. You too can get your shout out every single month. Head on over to patreon.com/thereasonsimebroke. And for just $1 a month, that equals out to 25 cents an episode, you can get your shout out right here on the show.
But of course, our podcast will always be free. The best thing you can do is let your friends know about us, right? That helps grow the Broket core. You can also reach out to us on Twitter at reasonsimbroke, at Kelli, spelled with an I, or you can check out our Discord lounge. Pop in there. All the Brokettes are there. We're all having a good time. If you at Kelli me, I'll show up too.
It's true. And you will find the link to our Discord lounge in the description of today's episode. But if you can't find it there, tweet at me and I will send you a link.
But that does wrap it up for our Patreon shoutouts of the week. And now we can move into a really interesting comic book review. It is Batman number 73, The Fall and the Fallen Part 4.
This one is written by Tom King, with art by Mikel Janin and colors by Jordi Belair.
I will preface this by saying I kind of fell off of this book for a while, so I haven't been keeping up with Batman's crazy dream sequences and all that stuff, but I didn't really feel lost jumping back in with this book. I felt it could kind of be a standalone with what it was.
I'm surprised you dropped out, because this is the Catwoman Batman story that you so adore.
I know, but Catwoman's not in it right now.
Don't you feel like it'll be richer, though, when she is finally there and they can re-break Bane, I guess?
Or I could make up in my head what should happen, or wait for you to tell me, because, like, I don't know. I just want them to be together. When they're apart, I get sad.
You've read Flashpoint, right?
Yes.
This is the stuff that I really wanted to see between Bruce and Thomas Wayne. If you're at all unfamiliar with that, like, wait a minute, isn't Thomas Wayne dead? Yes, he is in the main DC universe. But what Flashpoint is, it's an alternate universe in which Bruce dies in that alley. The shooter accidentally shoots little young Bruce, and Thomas Wayne beats the shit out of this shooter, kills him with his bare hands, and then his wife goes insane. He becomes Batman. His wife becomes the Joker, and that's where it is. Like, he is a Batman that kills criminals, shoots, he owns a casino, he's an alcoholic. A very different Batman than what we're used to. And the reason he helps out Bane in this continuity, now thanks to the events of Doomsday Clock, he is in, or at least our universe, and is trying to help his son in a way by helping Bane. So he also doesn't want Bruce to be Batman.
Right.
Bane maybe wants to try to kill him. He at least wants him gone. He wants to break him. And this is where Thomas is trying to pick up the pieces and say, you don't need to be Batman. And the part where I'm like, we need to fucking review this, is when he literally fixes Bruce. He fixes his back after being broken once again by Bane. Thomas is a doctor, just like as we know in the universe. So he set his back, and he knows he's probably done it himself on other people or himself, as he's an older Batman too. But he tells him, son, my little boy, you don't have to worry anymore about anything. Your father's got you. And he's just holding him, and he's hugging him back. He's just being a dad again. And that means more to him because he lost his son. He hasn't been able to hold his son in how many years? And now he's got it. how do they not both cry? How does anyone that's a Batman fan not cry? How does any father out there not cry at that thought? But where it gets a little more twisted is he's trying to not only recreate that relationship between himself and Bruce, but he's trying to get their family back together. If you read Flashpoint, you know in one of the tie-ins that he had to... Joker offs herself when she learns that their son in another dimension ends up becoming Batman. Yeah. So that's where he is trying to resurrect their mother, or his mother and his wife, using the Lazarus Pit with the help of Ra's al Ghul. So it's further changing maybe that dynamic of Batman. Maybe that's what Tom King was trying to do when he said that they've never tried to do this in the history of Batman, with Batman 75 moving into 76 and forward of, what if he has his family back and he's married to Catwoman? He literally has an even bigger family than before. I don't know if that's the direction they were going in. And I'm guessing now that we're not going to get the resurrection of Martha Wayne, but if they still allow him to go in that, assuming that's where he wants to go, then that's fucking incredible. You can explore so much story with Batman in that way.
Do you think that Batman would actually want for him to resurrect her, though?
I think that's where it's going to play out, where he's right now going along with Thomas healing, he's doing his thing, exploring this relationship with his father that he briefly had in Batman, the Button, that crossover between Batman and Flash. But I think he is going to stop him from bringing back his mom and probably say something along the lines of, I'm not the Bruce that you know.
Right.
Something along that. Right. And that's where Thomas will kind of come to that realization. Maybe they'll work together to go up against Bane. I think by the end of it, Thomas will end up dying for Bruce at the hands of Bane, but I guess we'll find out. But I kind of want to see what if, right? Let's see that story of a resurrected Martha.
Right. Both of them, and then Damian can show up.
Yes, and Grandma and Grandpa.
Grandma and Grandpa. At the end of the day, I mean, it was a great issue. I don't foresee Martha coming back. Exactly like you said, Thomas, I don't think is going to live out the rest of his years in this universe, right? Because Batman's going to say, I'm not really your little boy, because he's not, right? Thomas has been without him for years. On the flip side, Bruce has been without Thomas for years.
And I think deep down, neither of them really care. Like, they don't separate themselves that much. I think they can both still see, that's still my dad. That's still my son. Even though it's not my son, he is. That's how deep love can be between father, son, or mother, son, anything. So obviously they know that it's not the same one they lost, but they find comfort in themselves. And it's still a version of who they love so much and who they do love because of that.
This was a very well-paced book. Even if you fell off, right? I think this is a good place to jump back on, because they give enough of the background of their story of where they've come from and what's happened in previous issues that, like I said, I didn't feel lost. It was cool to see kind of the little bits of Thomas, because I feel like it was mostly about him in this issue. Bruce was knocked out for the majority of it, but, he's singing songs while he's beating people up and really enjoying this journey that he's going on with his son. It's
like a camping trip.
Right? Weird psycho camping trip. Yeah. Gonna bring your mother back from the dead, son. Let's go.
It's like, they're both Batman. They're both insane.
Right. So it was really good. I can definitely see how it got you right in the heart, especially being a father and thinking of if you had this moment with your son again.
That does it right there, Brokettes, for your bit of comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. If you stick around past this is where the more personal side of the podcast, where Papa Kelli and I have been. Very much appreciated if you stick through to the end, but if not, we will see you next week.
But now it's time for the Brokette Block.
This is the bit where the Brokettes get to know us a little bit better, and the reason why we did not record last week. So we had this sort of file episode ready from MegaCon that I went through and edited for hours because it's a convention podcast. It's the quality, as close as I tried to get to Greg Capullo, it's still in a big hall with a microphone with people clapping and laughing. So I had to go through and up the audio and down the audio, and especially if someone next to me, well, not really next to me, but like a few rows down, but it sounds like they're right next to me, coughed. I'd have to bring that down. And then when Greg would move away from the mic, it took a while, but I know Innsmouth said that He's like, I've been at a convention hall at a panel where Greg Capullo's speaking, and I heard him better in your podcast than I did at that panel. So I'm like, man, fucking appreciate it. Thank you so much.
you.
Like the hard work just paid off in that one comment. So
Right.
hope that you all also enjoyed that Greg Capullo panel, and that's massive comic book content, of course, for all of you. But the reason why we had to put that out last week is we took a week-long vacation. We didn't go far from, where we are normally. We didn't go out of the country, but we went to St. Augustine and also to Ponce Inlet, which is right on the beach. And then St. Augustine, of course, being, I think you said, one of the oldest towns in the U.S.,
I think
or at
it
least in
is.
Florida.
I think it is the oldest settlement, like in Florida.
Pretty amazing. So that's what we ended up doing. We took some time off work. It was you, me, Leo, and then your parents. So grandma, grandpa for Leo.
Yeah,
he had a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it was wonderful. This is something, I guess this is our 5th or 6th year going to the beach with them, and it just gets progressively longer every year that we go. Like, it started out as just a long weekend, and then now it's just kind of evolving, and my parents go for like 2 weeks, and then we just show up, when we want to. But it's always a wonderful time. It was great watching Leo on the beach. So he was there last year, but he was too little to really enjoy it. Now he can understand and see things more. And he's got his own little personality, right? So he had a great time. We took him down every morning. He got so brown. He is
sunburn.
No sunburn. No. And we put sunscreen on him, right? Made sure he had his little t-shirt with his swim shorts and everything. But yeah, beautiful baby. Very brown. Very nice. He got knocked over by his first wave.
Yeah. After that, he didn't trust the ocean so much.
No, he would take sticks and beat the waves with it.
Yeah, he did. I like that he would beckon the edge of the water with his little hand, and then as soon as it got close, he would hit it with the stick.
Yep.
And it's like everything has a personality to him, or maybe he's just playing around, but he definitely did not trust water, but he liked going out in it. He wanted us to carry him somewhat deeper into the ocean, and he enjoyed it there, but then 2 minutes later, he'd do the all done.
All done. Ready to go back. But there was a little tide pool, so he could play in that and dig with some sand and chase some birds and crabs and, just so much fun. It's so big for such a little boy.
So last year when he saw the ocean and the beach, he was like, okay, he was kind of taking it in. But this year he understood, like, okay, time to go to the beach. And he would walk down and he knew where to go. And he would know to play in the sand and see the seashells, throw those into the ocean. It's just kind of neat seeing even more comprehension on his side of what the beach is, what the ocean is. When we'd go out to the science center, he's starting to understand fear, or at least caution, because the same fish that last year he would kind of watch and see and point to, now he's kind of like, let me get close to dad. What's this creepy pufferfish thing?
This weird thing that just keeps moving around.
Or the giant fish that would like stare at him, like they'd get down because he's right at their height, and they would like stop and swimming in front of him. Like he's like, yeah, I'm not sure about these guys.
Like, yeah, I'm done.
And then St. Augustine, that's the first time I've ever been. And you've been a few times, right?
I've been once, and it was years and years and years ago, and I only remember it because Dad scared the hell out of me inside the fort. But that's literally all I remember about going. So, like, when I say I was little, it was over 20 years ago that we went.
The fort that you're talking about, it's a Spanish one. It's Castillo de San Marquí, I think.
Something, yeah.
Very beautiful fort. You can see where they had the defense, where they used to have the moat in that area. And also, of course, you have the tourist traps like the Fountain of Youth. Like, this was one of the settlements that he said. And they'll show you like bits of water and all that stuff. But otherwise, you can see the history in St. Augustine, in which they've obviously kept it and paid to keep all the corporations, for the most part, out, and to keep it local with the businesses, to keep it local with the structures, the buildings, the houses, because that's their selling point. That's the main thing. I am sure every Broquette has something somewhat similar in their state where they will keep it in that way. Where I used to live up in Illinois, there's a town called Barrington, and it's a very rich part of town. Like, there's millionaires that live there, like Chicago football players, and they pay to keep Walmarts out and Targets and all that stuff. So it's similar here with St. Augustine, but it's more condensed. It's a smaller town. The brewery, the different shops are all local and within walking distance. Like, the furthest thing we went to was the distillery, which was about a 15-minute walk.
15-minute walk, yeah. No, definitely, it was a really cool town. It kind of had the feel of, if any Brokeheads have been to Key West, when we went down to Key West, you remember?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just that old town, but not as touristy because there's no cruise ship showing up.
Right.
But yeah, little hole in the wall bars, right? And like you said, everything closes at 6, so you're walking down the street and it's like, oh, can't go anywhere because it's all closed up. But it was a really cool experience. We stayed at a bed and breakfast there, which was our first time staying in a bed and breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
We usually, do hotels because they're cheaper and, if you're only going to stay the night. But I think it was definitely worth the money. It was really nice.
Even that one was kind of upkept, older as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can tell maybe it was a home, or maybe it was always like a hotel type of building, but that's still how they're using it. And they had breakfast downstairs where they would actually serve you. Like the owners of the little inn would go out there and make sure. So it was a nice little experience. And I think the distillery, which was the most hipster fucking thing.
Oh, so hipster.
Was funny because everyone there was in their 20s and 30s running the fucking joint. And that one was cool though, because it used to be an ice plant where before refrigerators killed the industry, they would produce ice there and then they would sell it off. And especially for fishermen here in Florida, they would maintain a lot of those goods. We learned all of this during the tour.
It was the first ice plant in the state. So it revolutionized what they could do in St. Augustine because now fishermen were able to ship everything out to the rest of the state, to the rest of the country. And
so many years later, they ended up converting this, keeping the structure and maintaining it so that it does become of historical significance, but using the space to the most of their ability for a distillery for vodka and bourbon. Bourbon is their big thing, from what I understand. That's what I got from the tour. And they also have rum that they created and gin, but a lot of their alcohol is award winning. And then upstairs, or at least in the other part of the wing of this distillery or ice plant, they have a restaurant/bar where you can go and they have all the old tools as displayed. And you can tell that it's a much older building, but everyone there, has the twirly mustaches and the beard and the suspenders and all that stuff. So very pricey alcohol as well.
Very pricey alcohol.
But it's shit that I'm like, I guess I'll get that. And it's like, right away, sir. Then they'll bring me like this girly glass. I'm like, God damn it, what'd I fucking order? Happened twice.
Yep. The distillery was really cool. They did free tours, which was genius, right? Because you do this tour and you try all this alcohol because they'll let you try whatever you want. And then you end up spending like $75 on this stuff.
And it's right in the gift shop, but you don't feel swindled because you're like, this alcohol is quality. Like, that's why it's a free tour, because they're like, yeah, we know our shit's good. And as soon as you taste this, you're going to want to take some of this home. And that's what I'm drinking right now.
Yeah. It was really, really good stuff. And it's cool because the city of St. Augustine, and we didn't take advantage of this, but they have like a little trolley that goes around and stops at all the major stops. So you buy one ticket for the day and you can stop and get off and do whatever. And then 15 minutes later, another one shows back up. So that stopped at the distillery too. And it kind of felt like, at least our tour was pretty full. And I feel like probably most of them are, especially being a stop.
Yeah, it worked out really well, and I know that they do sell it locally, at least to St. Augustine, but we're not sponsored or paid for it at all. But if you do want to try it, and I do recommend it, it's the alcohol bottle, at least from what I saw, it's called St. Augustine Distillery, and then vodka or rum or gin or bourbon, which bourbon is their best,
bourbon whiskey,
most known one.
Absolutely delicious. St. Augustine itself was just great. We drank way too much. We didn't mention. So my parents watched Leo for the night.
That's
so
right.
It was our first night away in like 2 years, right? Since this kid's been born, our first night away together without him. So of course we got trashed.
Yeah. My favorite was the other hole in the wall.
Oddbirds.
Yeah, where I saw the wall of alcohol and I was already pretty buzzed at that point, but I see that one thing says Oaxaca on it. I'm like, that's Mexican. I wonder what that is. And I see that it's rum. It's like, we're not known for rum. And I tell him, I'm like, is that any good? There's 2 of them. He's like, yeah, there's a second one. They're both from Mexico and they're both rum. I'm like, well, we're not known for it, but I guess I'll get one of those. And he's like, you want to try them? I haven't tried them yet. I was like, sure. So the bartender and I tried both of those, one of which was okay, one of which was terrible. I'm like, yeah, we stick to the tequila, right? But I still had I'm like, yeah, I'll take the one that's okay. And I had that with a Coke and it was fine. But yeah, we got drunk and walked back to the bed and breakfast.
Yeah,
because
you could walk everywhere.
Yeah, the streets are like one way for the most part, and you're not going to be driving at night anyway, so you can walk everywhere. Unless you're driving if you're leaving.
Right. That's the only time that you should have to drive because, again, everything is, if it's not one way, their main road down the middle is just for walking where all the shops are. So, you just go everywhere, and we were close. The alcohol there was pretty good. They had this thing called bartender's pick, right? And so you told them what things you liked, and then they just made you something. Mm-hmm. Mine was delicious, and then I was done after that.
We ended up eating the next day at the Floridian, which is another locally owned little restaurant. We had looked up like good vegetarian options, and even the innkeeper recommended that as one of the favorites of the locals. And we said, all right. It was so good. I put up those pictures. You had the hamburger, and I had the zucchini noodles, which were amazing in that broth.
It was absolutely delicious. Super hipster place too, right?
Yes.
Like that whole city was hipster. But our water was in mason jars, and your straw with your rum and house-made soda was a leaf.
Do you have Coke? We have cola. It's like, all right. Just sure.
And yeah, it tasted fine. But everything was delicious. I had those fingerling potatoes on mine, and they were like the best potatoes ever. And it just really cool. Everything was locally sourced, right? So it was sustainable. It was nearby. Very, very fresh, you could tell. And of course, they charged like it was sustainable, locally sourced.
Good on them. Like, that's the thing, though. You want to support that kind of stuff.
Right.
Like, shop local, and that's as fucking local as it gets.
And at the end of the day, if you're getting the quality, you don't mind paying the price.
Of course. Exactly. Quality service, whatever it may be, will absolutely be back.
Of course.
And we do recommend, if you're in that St. Augustine area, what was the name of the shop, the inn? It was the
44 Spanish Street Inn.
44 Spanish Street Inn. We highly recommend it.
Highly recommend it. It was fantastic.
The Floridian, Oddbirds, and then the St. Augustine Distillery Ice Plant.
Ice Plant. Yep. And the fort was there. We walked around the outside. They wanted $15 each to go inside, and we said, next time, be chance. But one thing I will say about it, and I noticed it as we were walking out, I pointed it out to you, is what they used to build the fort as it's like wearing away. You can see all the shells in it. Because they only had sand here, right? They didn't have anything else to build it. So they just built it with our fucking sand. And you can see all the shells. It was really cool.
You mentioned beach ants. I got fucking bitten by one.
You did?
We were out there. Because we went back, and I'll put up the picture eventually, but we saw the beach ants. That's where it comes from. The origin is palpable, Kelly. Beach ants.
Beach ants.
And I was walking with Leo. I'm like, all right, let's go. And one fucking happened to flip from the sand onto my sandal. Got on my fucking toe, my pinky toe, and went, fuck you, asshole. Like, you're a threat. And I'm like, you fucking dick. Like, I'm just walking here. He's like, I don't fucking know that. I'm an
walking here.
So the fucking little fucking shit, that beach ant got me.
He got you. I guess we did see a lot of them, like, down by the beach. There weren't any up by the condo like there were last year. But, I mean, the weather was great. I think the whole time we were there was one day where it rained all day.
And I heard before we got there, it was raining a lot.
Yeah, but when we were there, it was comfortable every time we were out at the beach. We got ice cream a few nights, and Leo was hilarious with his ice cream, and then he wouldn't sleep. So, that was great.
Yeah, it was still tiring a little bit. But it was fun. It was good to get away. I got back and, of course, had to catch up on everything with the store. Of course. I think it was about maybe a little bit better than last year, or at least last time I went on vacation, where I didn't have to worry about as much. Obviously, you still have to as a manager. Course. There's things you got to catch up on. There's things that aren't done the way you'd like them to be done. And unfortunately, it's one thing that you just got to try to temper yourself with. And that's something I'm still trying to work on, and can be difficult when you have a 1.5-year-old, because it affects everything around it. But I think right now I am mostly caught up with everything for the most part. Like, I feel like I'm getting right back into that cycle. And the owner said, your fans missed you. And I'm like, they're not my fans. They're just customers.
I'm glad that you took that full time, though. I know it's stressful coming back and having things, so much to catch up on. But would you have wanted to miss any of those moments that you had with him or with us? No.
It's all a part of it. And your dad and I connected a lot with that, because he's in a position of, managing all kinds of things. And we kind of related on that, where he said, you leave for a week and you come back and you do 2 weeks worth of work before you leave and after you come back. So it's obviously true.
Yeah,
it's obviously true.
Is.
And you're going to stress and you're going to worry. And I still checked. I didn't reply to any emails, but I checked my email just to see, just to make sure. And I got a couple of phone calls from the staff on a couple of questions or from the owner, and not a huge deal. But as much as you don't want to get away or you may regret it, you've got to. Mm-hmm. You just have to. There's no way around it.
In my life, now that I've been back at work, right? And I don't think I told you this, I officially finished training today.
Congratulations. That's great.
So I am officially a manager. Yay. And so I'm still at the store that I am with the other manager for the foreseeable future, right? Until there's an actual spot for me, a store for me to go to. And so it was funny. I finished my training today and then the manager texted me and he's like, so I start vacation on Thursday. I'll just show up at noon tomorrow. Have fun. So I'm just by myself for most of the morning, which, we're working on projects, right? And that's what I'm doing now. It was very stressful the first 2 weeks, right? Because it was so overwhelming. There was so much to learn. But what I'm doing now is what I've been doing for years. And so I'm excited and I'm ready and I'm already thinking of all these things that we can do to improve and figuring out a way to introduce him to those without seeming like I'm trying to
step on toes
to take over, to,
undermine.
Right. You have to be really careful when you come into a new situation with those kind of things. But I went from a very large company to something that's large, but still small because of where I am. So I do bring a lot of knowledge, and my boss knows that I bring a lot of knowledge and experience and can turn this boat very quickly because of how quickly I had to implement it with 20 times as many people, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm excited. I'm ready. It's cool.
Yeah, that's really, really neat. Mm-hmm. Really good. I'm excited to see how that you fit into your role eventually, a couple months down the line when you're fully settled into whatever, store you end up getting.
Hopefully it's close by. I like my commute now. It's real nice.
And I think that about does it for the Brocat blog. Mm-hmm. I will say, one warm note that I can end on is, I thought about this today because I heard it. When customers leave the store, they have a good one, thank you. And they're like, yeah, see ya. The door's still closing, and then I can always hear their comments as they're leaving. They think I can't. And sometimes it's, it can be negative, not to us, but oh, that's a smaller store than I expected or whatever. But it's mostly positive.
That's great.
And what warms my heart is when customers are like, oh, that was cool. That was really neat. I hear that.
Mm-hmm.
But my favorite too is when customers straight up, after they're done walking around the store, they're like, you have a really nice store here.
Aww.
That's awesome, because they don't have to say anything.
Right.
And then the other thing is when kids are like, oh, Mom, can we come back? I'm like, man, those things are what puts gas in our tank.
Right. That's amazing. That's like you work very hard to keep your store the way that it is, and it shows.
Yeah, and that's also the detriment, right? Because when it's not up to that standard, it becomes the end of the world for me.
Right.
Because I want to keep getting those comments. I want to keep hearing that. And my store isn't the biggest one in the world, and I think we, as the owner said, he's like, we pack a good amount of product in here and use the space very effectively, where people like to come here as opposed to some of the bigger stores. And it's a combination of the way we use the space, the product we carry, the staff, and just it's a recipe. Everything has to kind of fit to make it all work. And I feel like that's the stuff I like to hear, and I never get tired of it. So if you happen to be at a store that wherever you're listening from, whether it doesn't even have to be a comic book shop, but if you go to a store locally that you like and the workers, throw a little something their way of, hey, I've always wanted to say I appreciate this and I like this or whatever. And we always know that it's appreciated on the other end. And I will tell you that. So whatever store you like going to, listener, make sure to let them know that you do enjoy, and they're doing something right.
Well, anywhere in the service industry, though, that you go, even, me speaking from a restaurant business standpoint, right? Your servers, people, bartenders, whatever, they work really hard. Servers have one of the hardest jobs anywhere for anything.
It's true. I used to be one for several. Yep. Right.
I managed them for a hot second, right? But they have a very difficult job. So just, you can give a compliment with a tip, right? Maybe leave them a little more money, but even just saying, hey, you did a fantastic job. Or, hey, when I just pulled up through the drive-through speaker box, you were really polite. Thank you for that. Or, you guys are always so fast every time I come through. Those little things really do go a long way and encourage them to keep going, because it's pretty easy to get run down and discouraged in those kind of roles.
One thing I've never worked at a drive-through or any of that, but one thing I've noticed is that their surveys on their receipts are like a big thing. So they don't always mention them, because I used to work at GameStop and I know it sucks. Like, I used to have to push the power-up car and reserves and also the survey. It's like, God damn it, GameStop. And if you didn't get all three, then the manager got shit, and then you got shit, and then you got less hours. And I was good at getting those, but I didn't like it. I didn't like having to push for that.
Right.
So
Sucks.
if you do like an experience at a drive-thru, for example, or even a GameStop, you fill out that survey, and if you really want to help them, you do perfect scores. Because I remember if it was a 4 out of 5, it's bad. It might as well be a 1 to the company.
It doesn't mean anything. A good means nothing.
Right. It has to be excellent. It has to be 100%.
So typically, at least in the last 2 companies that I've worked for, they give you a percentage, but your percentage is only on excellence. So what percentage out of 100 were excellent? If it's not excellent, it doesn't count, and it just drives down your percentage. So yes, just 5s down the board.
If you want to help them, yes, absolutely. Right. If you don't want to help them, don't even fill out the survey. Don't be an ass and like do 1s or anything like that.
Right.
Unless it was an actual shitty experience.
If you have a problem, talk to the manager while you're there. Give them the opportunity to fix it.
Anything else, Papa Kelly?
No, I could go on about this forever. I'm very passionate about this. I'm all worked up.
Thank you so much, listeners. We're glad to be back on this episode. We hope you enjoyed last week's and this week's episode as well.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in this and every single week. I am your Emperor Papa Kelly.
And I am Pokemaniac Daniel.
And Brocat Core.
All will be well.